Welcome to the third and last tutorial in this little series, and I'm going to start this tutorial by modelling a cherry to drop into our glass. Now, to make things easier, I'm going to do it on a different layer so I don't have to mess around too much. So let's first hide the render view, and this is everything we've got in our current layer. Mark Q, one thing I am going to do is to scale this glass down so it looks a bit more realistic with the size of the table. Even if it's a small occasional table, the glass wouldn't actually be that size, would it? So I'm scaling that down, and we'll drop it down onto the table. And there we go. And we'll probably have to adjust our camera angle later, but as I said before, I like doing these things as they occur to me because otherwise I've got a tendency to forget them. So right, let's go and model our cherry. In order to do that, we're going to go to another layer. Bang, just like that. And we're going to start off with a sphere. And it's going to be a UV sphere, and that number of vertices is okay, so we're going to keep it for the default because after all the cherry's not really going to be absolutely humongous. It's going to be quite a small part of the scene, although an essential one. So without any more ado, I'll zoom in on that. Now, there's some things about cherries. The first one is that they're not round. Now, with Blender, when you model something, it's a good idea to actually try and do like the overall things first. So the overall thing, I'm going to make it flatter, and I'm going to make it slightly longer. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put the little depression in the top where the stalk would go. So we're going to go into edit mode. I'm just going to select that, change to moving things down, and I'm going to move that down, and I'm going to select this ring here. Oh, come on. Thank you. Select edge loop. There we go. I'm going to drop that down a little bit as well. And that's going to be the little hole where the stalk would go. So the next thing is that cherries are sort of like a heart shape, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn proportional editing on. Now this is something we haven't used before. You may or may not be familiar with it. But here's proportional editing. I'm going to enable it. And fall off. Several different fall offs you can have, and I'm going to make it sharp, I think actually. No, I'm not. I'm going to make it spherical. There we go. So the way proportional editing works is if I click on one of these points, then as soon as I start to move it, you'll see that this circle appears, and by rotating the mouse wheel I can make it bigger or smaller, so it will affect fewer or more vertices. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dimple that inwards, and I'm going to dimple that inwards. I want to go a bit more than that, I think. And then I'm I'm going to do a similar thing the other side. You notice I don't have to bother adjusting it now that I've actually got the size of the affected area the way that I want it. And that's the first thing that I'm going to do. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the bottom a bit, and in order to do that I'm going to use proportional editing again, but this time I'm going to need the circle to be rather larger because we're going to affect more vertices, and with the spherical fall off it affects it less as you get towards the edge of the circle. So you can see. And now I'm going to flatten in the edges. Along this side. Now, when you're modelling stuff like this, it's a very good idea to actually have an example of the fruit in front of you, and I have at this moment. And I can see that actually I've got quite a few little bulges. So I'm going to turn proportional editing off. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to use a modifier, and this is a modifier that I've used in a previous tutorial. I'm going to use the displace modifier, and it's best to see this. I can use the object mode here. I'm just going to have a cloud, and obviously I want the strength to be tiny, something like 0.06 maybe. It's just enough to give it some irregularity, that's all, no more than that, just like that. And I'm going to apply that, and that is our cherry without the materials and without a subdivision surface. And there you can see with the subdivision surface on what it will actually look like, and we're going to make it a smooth shading there. So that's our cherry. Now I'm going to need to go into edit mode again because I'm going to have two materials. Why am I going to have two materials? Because the middle in here, this pit, is actually quite a light colour. It's like a light green or even a yellow. So we want to make sure that we get this right, because the more correct you get it, I mean, you may not see it in the final render, don't know until we've done it, but the more things that you get right, the better the final render will actually look. So we're going to go into edit mode again, and can I, yeah, it's the same. We're going to go into edit mode again, and hit the A key to remove the selection. going to turn off that modifier because at the moment we're seeing it, so by clicking on the eye you can sort of turn off the view on it. And what we actually need another set of vertices in here, and a good way of doing that is there's a tool called knife. So if I go back and select all again, down here we've got knife, and I'm just gonna literally draw quite a regular shape around here, like so, and then I'm going to hit the enter key, and lo and behold we've got a whole load of new vertices around here. And what we want to do is we want to select them all, and the middle one, and that is going to be where the pip is. So if I go to the material, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a material for the whole thing. So I'm going to go into object mode, new material, it's going to be a dark red, almost black, like that, and actually it needs to be a mixed shader because it needs some gloss to it. So where is it? Mixed shader. Right, so the first shader is our diffuse shader, which is there. Colour, as I said before, red, dark, almost black, like that. And then the next shader is the gloss shader, not glass but gloss, that one there. Colour, it's going to be red, but it's not going to be so dark. I'm going to darken it down a little bit, but not so much. So that's our gloss shader. There's going to be no roughness to it. At the moment we're half and half. Don't know if that's going to be okay or not. Now that will have applied to the whole material. If I render that, there's no real lighting on this layer, so you can't really see it, but you can see it's all the same material. Okay, just stop that. Now if we go back into the edit mode, you can see it's remembered our selection, which is good. That's exactly what we want. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a new material, and that new material is just going to be diffuse. It's going to be let's have a look at this. Yeah, it is. It's a very bright sort of yellowy greeny white, somewhere over here I think, something like that is where we are. Tiny bit of roughness, and then you hit assign, and what assign does is it makes just that area that you selected that material. So if I'm going to have to move the camera anyway, so if we go to the top here, Line active camera to view, render image, and you can just about see up there that little dot. Now at the moment it's not reflective enough, it's not glossy enough, it doesn't look glossy. In order to fix that, before I fix that, which I'm going to do, I'm going to move it back to the layer it should be on. So that's object mode, and M for move, and it's that layer there we want it on. If we click there, you can see we've got our absolutely huge cherry. Never mind, we'll scale it down and manipulate that later. What we want to do at the moment, if anything, we want to scale it up a bit, because we want to try and adjust the material so that it's correct. And the material we're going to adjust is this one, and what we're going to adjust is the factor here, which should tend more towards the gloss as I shift it to the right. So if I try now, see what we've got. That is far too glossy. That's a mirror. It looks a bit like a Christmas tree decoration. So I've gone too far there. We'll pull it back a bit. Still too far. Look back a bit further. And a lot of Blender materials is about messing around really with these levels and getting it right. So it's a good idea once you've got it right to actually record what you've done. I've never done a cherry before, so this is a first for me. I do actually keep a book of really good material settings for different types of objects. And actually I do think I need to put a little bit of roughness in there. Surprisingly enough, not a lot, just a little bit, maybe 0.1. And that's better. That's more like a cherry. And if anything, this needs to go darker. This colour here needs to go darker. Try again. And we want to up the reflectivity a bit. And that's a reasonable cherry sort of colour, I think. If anything, it's still a bit light, but we can live with that. I think it's going to look like what it's supposed to be, and that, after all, is the name of the game. Right, so now we'll put our cherry in the glass. Whoa, it just about fits. How's that? It's far too big. So what does a cherry look like when it's in a martini glass? Well, I think it's about that size. And I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to rotate it a bit more. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use physics to drop it into the glass. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make this glass and it's a passive object because it doesn't respond to gravity, and this is in the rigid body settings. Okay, bounciness, we're going to have a little bit. Friction, going to have quite a lot. And I'm going to move this up. And don't worry, you won't actually see it drop in the actual real world. In the actual real world animation. Now what I need to do, I need to bring this camera obviously down. Actually no, I don't. I want to leave it about where it is. I just want to bring it in. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the actual camera settings. Because on here you've got a zoom lens. So that's the focal length. As we move the focal length out, this is just like the zoom button on your camera. Now I'm going to grab it and pull it down. Maybe better adjusting the actually I'm not too worried about that, I might say. So insert prop to freeze the camera. I think I've already got it's okay. Staying put as we want it. Right, so the next thing to do is to make this what in jargon they call an actor, which means that it's an active rigid body. It's dynamic, so it moves, and if we then go through, you see the camera jump there, so I did actually have a keyframe set. I had a funny feeling I did. Let's reselect the camera and we'll sort that out. And that's the one we want. That's the one we don't want. So I'm going to remove that keyframe. Right. Whoa! We missed. How could we miss? We dropped our cherry in and we missed. Okay, going to have to move that. Obviously, it's too near the side. It's too near the side of the glass. Let's try that again. View, camera. What on earth is going on here? Oh, this is very interesting. Okay, well we'll give up on that idea. For some reason the way I've created this glass is not actually allowing it to work properly. So we'll get rid of the rigid body from the glass. We'll get rid of the rigid body from the cherry. And we're just going to have to do old-fashioned animation, which is okay. So I'm going to start off by saying, well, if I view from camera angle, whereabouts in the glass do I want that cherry to be? And I want it to be not sticking out of the glass. I want it to be about there, and this is starting to make it look like it's possibly too large actually, that cherry. So we want to scale it down again. So there we go, there's that cherry. And I'm going to make sure that that little bit at the top is visible by pulling it towards the camera. Just double check that. Yep, there we go. I'm going to raise it up a little. Mind you, there's going to be fluid in there, but there we go. Now that's going to be our end position. So after how long would the cherry take to drop down there? 2 seconds, which is 50 frames. So 50 frames, insert, location, rotation. So that's going to be where it stops. Then up here is going to be where it starts. And I'm going to animate the rotation on the way down, because you never know, it might do something with the fluid. Insert, location, rotation. So if we go back to camera view, whoops, there we go. Now I know that doesn't look realistic as animation, but we only want it to get the splash from the fluid, or to get the movement from the fluid. And so now we do the fluid simulation part. And the way you always start this is with the actual fluid. If you've got fluid in the area already, which we have, we've got fluid inside this glass, then what we need to do is to create a fluid object. And the way that we want to do that, we want it the same sort of shape. So it'd be a good idea to copy the inside of this glass, really, wouldn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a cylinder in now. I'm going to make sure it's bang centering the glass, and the way I'm going to do that is by using the 3D cursor. Snap cursor to selected. Snap selection to cursor. I'm going to scale it up, something like that. So I'm aiming to get the top of the fluid correct. And to get the depth of it correct-ish. Don't worry about the fact that this is chunky, because that will also disappear as part of the fluid simulation. It'll take out all the air gaps. I'll show you that in a minute. So that's looking reasonable. The next thing to do, we'll edit it. We'll select this bottom ring here, and guess what we're going to do with that bottom ring? Yep, we're going to scale it. We're going to make sure it's right inside the glass. So that is actually our fluid object. So and then go over to the physics associated with that object, which is cylinder 01. I want to rename it. I'm going to rename it fluid. Now this object won't really appear in the scene, it's just like a place marker for the fluid simulator, so it doesn't need a material. What it does need is it needs us to tell the fluid simulator that it is in fact a piece of fluid. So fluid type is fluid. Initialization is volume. We're not going to give it any velocity. You could give it a velocity one way and make it slop about a bit. Actually, let's do that. We might as well. What the heck? In for a penny, in for a pound. I'm going to give it a very small velocity. Probably make it slop over the edge, but there we go. So that's that. And then what we do with that is we move it onto another layer because we don't need it in our scene. It's never going to be rendered. So we'll move it onto a spare layer. Now this glass, we need to set it as an obstacle. We want free slip, and we want the shell initialized. Likewise with the cherry, it's going to be an obstacle. We want free slip, and it's the shell and the volume we want to initialize. Right, we've just got one more thing left to do, and that's to give the fluid a box, a domain within which it's going to work. Now, just in case we get any spilt on the tablecloth, which we might do, I'm going to make this tablecloth also an obstacle. But this time I'm going to make it partial slip so we get droplets. Okay, reasonable amount too. So that's that, and now all we need to do is put in a cube, and that's going to be our domain. Now the way the fluid simulator works is that this cube actually is the fluid. So it's a good idea to have everything in the fluid simulator inside it at all times, otherwise it's been known to kind of forget. Sounds a bit strange, but there we go. Okay, so that's that, and this does actually need a material because this box here will turn into the fluid. But before we do that, we're going to make it the domain. 65 for something that size is a reasonable resolution. Forget this, this is a cache that I was playing around with earlier. Get rid of that. Right, so 65 is reasonable, 100 would be better, we'll go for 100. And we're not really worried about start and end times because we're not running it as an animation. We just want to get to a reasonable state of fluid. Then we've got fluid world, we've got viscosity presets, we've got viscosity for water, which is what's set. Real world size, it's going to be a bit smaller than that, maybe 0.2 of a meter. And the fluid boundary, free slip, make sure that remove air bubbles is checked. Surface fluid smoothing is on, that's absolutely fine. And then what we're going to do is once again we're going to hit this bake, and we're going to have to wait a little while. See you soon. Right, so I've let it render for about 80 frames or so, and that's been enough for me to see where I want to actually stop it. As you can see, it dives in, creates a bit of a fuss there. And I think I want to stop it about there because that looks interesting. So glass is overflowing, there's a droplet. So it's that, is that glass going to overflow or not? So we go to the modify section of the domain. I'm going to apply it, So now that is fixed. It's no longer a fluid simulation. We can get rid of the physics on the other items while we remember. Now you'll see that here we've got drops of fluid that have been forced through the glass. Now the only way to get rid of these really is to because the glass is thin, and the only way to get rid of those is to actually manually edit them, which we're just going to do now. So if we go to edit mode, or actually before we do that, go to object mode, and we will freeze our location and rotation so that we end up in the same place. And I'm going to bring it out, and that's what the fluid looks like out of its glass. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth it, and to smooth it I'm going to use the sculpt tools. I'm going to go into sculpt mode, and there's a smooth tool, polish tool, take the size of that down a bit actually. And what that does, it'll knock all the high spots off. And this is something you quite often have to do with fluids in Blender. Of course, if it's an animation, it's very convenient. It's not the sort of thing that you really want to do. But in general, you only really have to do it when you've got very thin, as we have in this case, containers. Right, so that should do it, I think. If I go back to object mode, and we'll scoot a frame back. We want to view it from the camera angle, and from the camera angle that is absolutely fine. Okay, what we haven't done is given the fluid any type of shader, and it's going to be glass because it's a see-through fluid. We're going to make it a pinky colour, pink gin type colour maybe. Index of reflection for fluids, it's a lot lower, it's like 1.3, usually works. And that, I think, is about it. We render that image and we'll see what we get. Right, now stop this render as well, because immediately there's one improvement that could be made, which is obvious, and there are two things that are wrong with it. The first thing that's wrong with it is the water surface, well, the drink surface is too lumpy. That's an easy one to fix, I'll do that in a sec. The next thing that's wrong with it is the drink is too dark. Now that really means that we need to whack this right the way up there, and we've still got a colour in there, so that should lighten that up. Okay, now what we want to do is to add a subsurface modifier onto there, subdivision surface. And that should do that. Now, the thing that could be improved is in fact in our compositing, because what we could do with is a glare filter, so that where we have these lovely spangs of light there, we actually have camera glare stars coming out, and we can do that by adding in a glare filter. And image into there, image out, like so. And you can see at the moment we're set too high, so our threshold is too high, sorry, too low, so our threshold wants to go up, the fade value wants to go down. We have 5 streaks, we'll have an angle on them. Let's try something like that. Now of course we're going to have to render. What I want to do is set this so that these little lights here actually have got some let's try that. And this is taking a little while because it's actually working quite hard, believe it or not. Everything in Cycles, unless you've got a really good GPU card, will actually take an awful lot longer than using Blender Internal Render. But if you're doing things with glass and fluids, then the results are well worth all the fiddling about, because you get much better results. And I don't know if you can see, but we actually have got some little star shapes appearing in there, and I want to take the threshold down a bit more, 1.3 maybe, and bring the fade up. And I'll play with that a bit and get back to you. Right, so here's what I ended up with. Streaks, medium quality, 5 iterations, colour mix I left alone at 0.25, mix minus 0.2, threshold 1.1, streaks 5, angle offset 24, fade 0.886, and that should be reasonable. So now I'm going to go ahead and I will render the whole thing properly, and I will see you shortly. And here we are with the finished render. I had to change a few settings, I'll go through those. And as you can see, we've got the fluid surface, we've got the cherry, which isn't overly visible, but never mind. We've got the light shining through the glass onto the table, and that's not a bad render, even if I do say so myself. Of course, things can always be improved, and I'm sure with a little bit of tiddling around that some of you could do better. So let's see what we've changed. Well, I changed some of the rendering settings. Under sampling, I went for branched path tracing, so it reduced some of the noise. Clamp 2 and 4, and I think really if I just leave this for a sec, then you can take down all the numbers and pause the video if you have to. As for materials, I did change the fluid material slightly, changed the colour, and in order to get the shadow to come out better, in the world background environment texture area, I took the strength of that background illumination down to 0.2, and where are we? The light here I took up to 600. And those were the changes that I made to get the scene to render like this. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this short series of tutorials, and of course if you found it all useful, please like and subscribe and do all those good things, and I'll see you soon in another